So there was that Obama Mandela dinner that happened in 2018.
Wait, you meant Obama? You have done some amazing work. Angie?
Yes, Angie Motshekga.
Angie Motshekga. Who's Angie Motshekga?
She is our basic education minister. I think former now.
Former.
Obviously,
Okay,
after
after
things
the
have changed.
changed.
And stuff,
All
so
right,
yeah,
fine. Then you did Kevin Hart. Now that we've known each other for a while, right?
Yeah.
And the question out there by the fans is who's funnier? You shoot with Hart.
So I capture people's emotions.
So you're looking for somebody's emotion.
Emotions, space, setting, moment. You must remember, I think if this person were to leave us today, what's the memory we have of them? So I grew up in Hillbrow.
Okay.
I was born in the Northwest, or Hillbrow, but I was raised in Hillbrow. I used to be so ashamed of this in high school.
Okay.
Because
Why?
Hillbrow
Explain.
has a
What is
reputation.
Hillbrow? What is Hillbrow?
Hillbrow is gangster.
It's gangster.
Yeah.
You don't look gangster though. I mean, I gotta say,
Listen,
you just
looks can be
deceiving.
deceiving.
What?
Yeah, and then unfortunately got into a car accident when I was in standard 5.
Oh wow.
And I remember that day I was going to actually tell him that I was chosen as a prefect at school.
So the same day.
Same day. And I remember waiting at the door. I was like, okay, Mr. Mowen is coming back. And that's where we got news that he got into a bad car accident. This was in March.
Yeah.
And he was in a coma and passed away on my birthday.
Sometimes we are afraid to do something. You fear shame. I don't want shame. We're trying to break that burden by sharing stories of courage, resilience, and we want to be able to celebrate your story.
Shameless.
Welcome. And my name is Zikamai Gaizo, and I'm the host for the Shameless Podcast. Today, I am actually doing a video podcast, which seldom happens, and I'm joined with Thabang Radebe. Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I hope you've got a lot of energy.
Look, I bounce off walls. So good luck.
You bounce off walls.
Yes.
That's what we're going with today.
Yeah. No, I bounce. The energy levels are on another level.
Okay, so with that energy level conversation, what do you feel like drains you of energy? Like, you can wake up and then this thing just happens and then you just suddenly just get drained of energy. Like, what would you say if there's one thing that just takes all the energy out and the life out of you? What would that one thing be?
Carrying equipment.
And
admin.
And admin. So you don't like carrying equipment and admin. And
feels like the same thing.
it feels like one is
same.
Definitely it's not the same thing.
Yeah,
but why
feels.
why does it carry that weight? Why?
I memean, firstly, with carrying actual equipment, it's heavy.
Yeah.
And, I've gotten used to just working by myself all the time. Not great delegating. Yes, I'll get there.
Uh-huh.
And in terms of admin,
It's not your strong suit.
That's all I'm going to say.
That's all you're going to say. You know what? I actually resonate with that because admin, if it's the last thing I'm going to do, it'll be the last thing that we will do. And so admin is a heavy weight on my shoulder that I don't like as
So
well.
you
So
relate, which is
I relate
great.
with that exactly. So what equipment are you carrying? You said you carry equipment. Maybe if you were to give me a little lowdown of what this equipment that you're carrying is, and I assume it's got to do with your life work.
Okay, so studio equipment. So your lights, my cameras, my lenses. Oh, the stands are the worst to carry. Actually, no, the reflector, because it's not heavy, but it's shaped in a very awkward way.
Okay.
You know when you're washing dishes?
Yes.
And there's a dish that you don't enjoy washing, like your
Like what?
grater.
The
The
grater.
grater's the
Because you
weirdest
have to
thing
try
to
to get it inside and then it doesn't really work.
Yes.
And you never clean it. I never feel like a grater is
Accurately.
clean. I just, yeah.
So that reflector feels like a grater if you're washing dishes. But yeah, it's basically carrying equipment, setting up. It's very exhausting, but once it's set up, then I'm good to go.
You're good to
because I kind of bribe myself with that
And then
and
the
say, hey,
treat.
you can take photos after.
Yeah. So maybe to give a little synopsis of what you do for our listeners that might not know Thabang. So you are a professional photographer
Yes.
and you have done some amazing work. And I'm only just going to talk about like maybe one or two. The first one will be Angie.
Yes.
Angie who?
Angie Motshega.
Angie Motshega. Who's Angie Motshega?
She is our basic education minister.
Okay, where's we ours? Who's we? Where are
South
we?
Africa.
In South Africa.
Oh,
We are here in the continent. We're talking about the continent. Can we provide the context? So Angie Motshega,
Yes.
basic education minister.
Yes.
I'm going to come back to that one.
I think former now.
Former.
Obviously, after
Okay, yeah.
elections,
After
things
the
have changed and stuff,
All
so
right,
yeah,
fine. And that was 2024.
That was this year.
All right. Then you did Kevin Hart.
I photographed for Advertising Week last year, and he was Heartbeat was part of the project.
Okay, so you did. So I want to clarify something. I had some viewers and listeners DM me because I did one episode where I asked who's funnier, Kevin Hart or me, and a lot of them came back and they said that I was more funny than Kevin, but I couldn't really take their word for it because they've never met him. So now that we've known each other for a while, right?
Yeah.
And the question out there by the fans is who's funnier? I think you'll be probably the best person to be able to bridge that gap. I mean, and there's no pressure whatsoever. I am hilarious, right?
The guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna be biased because you're my homie.
There we go. Done. Case closed. Done. So I'm funnier.
It's done.
I mean, I'm taller. I'm funnier. I'm more. This is what homies do. Hey, okay, fine, whatever.
You're funnier. You win.
They're done. I'm gonna take the win and I'm gonna move on. So you did Kevin Hart along with other people with on Heartbeat, but I won't come back to that later on. And then you did Obama with
the Mandela Dinner.
So you also you did a photography session, or you were the photographer of Obama.
They were a team of photographers.
Oh, okay.
And then we shot that evening was a gala dinner. So we had a lot of prominent people in the space.
Yeah.
Because he gave the lecture during the day at the FNB Stadium, and the evening they had like the private gala dinner at Nasrec.
So you're wearing like the VIP media, excuse me.
Camera this side. We had our face beats. We had brand new clothes on. We're looking fresh. But unfortunately, they took our memory cards because we had to sign non-disclosure forms.
So it's gone?
It's gone.
All you have is the memory inside your brain?
All I have is the memory and all the people that saw me there.
So we don't really...
It's actually a very sore topic for me.
Oh, wait, so there's no proof that you were there? Like
the
you
powers
have
that be have
the proof.
Because when we take photos, we make sure that there's a copyright thingy in it. But in terms of us having actual access,
gosh,
right?
And so how long have you been doing photography for?
10 years in November.
10 years in November,
right? Yeah.
Gosh.
So it's been...
and maybe if I was to rewind, if I was to go back, where did this come from? What inspired this, you getting into photography or doing photography?
So I went to a wedding expo, okay? And I realized that there were no black female photographers. And I was like, this looks weird. And look, I was married before. And this is how, because we're looking for a wedding photographer.
Yeah.
Okay. So into the wedding expo, there were no black female photographers. Yeah. We booked someone to take photos of us. So we started with an engagement shoot. Yeah. White guy from Pretoria. Yeah. And he did such a horrible job. But but also the way he treated the whole thing was just, you know, he was late on the day.
So he didn't carry the same importance that you had.
Yeah. And no, I wasn't a photographer then at this point.
Yeah.
I didn't even know I was going to get into photography.
Yeah.
Funny enough. And I was looking at this guy and I was like, nah. I just imagined how many of our people were going through the same thing of not having a relatable photographer on the other side.
Yeah.
So then I was like, I can do this because I had a graphic design background. I was a graphic designer at the time. Yeah. So I actually got into photography. The very first reason was for me to prove a point.
That even us,
I'm going
we're
to
there.
do it properly for our people.
There you go.
That was
the first thing. That's the thing that tipped the iceberg, that moved you the dial across the board. Yeah. So now, if I was to rewind even further back, where did you grow up?
Oh, so I grew up in Hillbrow.
Okay.
I was born in the Northwest, Hillbrow, but I was raised in Hillbrow. I used to be so ashamed of this in high school.
Okay.
because
Why?
Hillbrow
Explain.
has a
What is
reputation.
Hillbrow? What is Hillbrow?
Hillbrow is gangster.
It's gangster.
Yeah.
You don't look gangster though. I mean, I gotta say,
Listen,
you just
looks can be
deceiving. What?
No, but Hillbrow was quite nice back then.
Okay.
A lot's changed, I'm not going to go into the politics of it.
Yeah.
But it's not safe.
Okay.
It's probably one of the worst places to be in Joburg, especially now.
Okay.
Crime rate is intense.
Yeah.
There's just a lot going on. But that's where I grew up. It was beautiful at some point.
Yeah.
It was safe. My mom worked for a guy from England. He was my guardian.
Okay.
White guy from England. I went to primary school. Actually, I stayed like 5 minutes away from the primary school I used to go to.
Wait, so you literally just didn't move? You just were like,
Look, I moved a little bit.
and then you came back.
And then I came back.
You're like, this is, I've gone too far.
I was like, this is home. Where the gunshots are joking.
Bang, bang. I missed the sound of guns instead of birds, but carry on. And she worked as what?
She was his helper.
Okay, fine, yeah.
And also when he was, because he had a full-time job, but he was also a caretaker of the building.
Okay, cool.
So she would caretake when he wasn't around. She would play the
so
role of the caretaker as well.
Cool.
So he was basically like a father figure.
Okay.
Because I had my dad, my dad wasn't around actually, absent dad. And then unfortunately he got into a car accident when I was in standard 5.
Oh, wow.
And I remember that day I was going to actually tell him that I was chosen as a prefect at school.
So the same day?
Same day. And I remember waiting at the door. I was like, okay, Mr. Morgan is coming back. And that's where we got news that he got into a bad car accident. This was in March.
Yeah.
And he was in a coma and passed away on my birthday. Yeah.
Damn. So now your birthday, now the fact that you're a prefect carries that, and then the other part, then now your birthday is like forever like a day where it's kind of mixed emotions.
Yeah, so it was that. And I remember I'd written him a letter and he was in a coma, like I said. And
How long was he in a coma for?
He hung on. So the accident was in March sometime.
Yeah.
But he hung on until my birthday.
Oh, I don't know when your birthday is.
20th of April. It was about a month.
April. Okay, a month.
So, yeah, my mom read him a letter that I'd written. And apparently he turned his head and a tear rolled down his face so he could hear. And he always bought me the best birthday gifts. And I think for him, that was, yeah. So
that's deep, yo. And how do you feel that experience has been carried through your life?
I was bullied a lot in school because I grew up in Hillbrow and I didn't grow up in the Lokshin, Bosoweto and stuff. I was a village girl, but I grew up in Hillbrow and I was raised by a white man. And for them, it was like, you think you're white, they'd like, but honestly, in hindsight now, he was the only male figure that was present in the very important years of my life. So I could say that he was my dad. I could choose. You can choose who your father figure is. It doesn't need to be a biological thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just knowing that there are people like that exist.
So does that give you a bit more? Does that open your eyes wider to being able to accept other people, and so you feel that experience shows you that even though you might have been born into a circumstance, you can choose and you can forge the way forward from that point and make the most out of every. And did you think that you appreciated that as much as you do now?
Then I was embarrassed.
Is it?
Because the kids were like, how? This white man? You? What's going on?
What's happening here?
But yeah, I mean, he had friends in El Dorado Park, so I was exposed to like colored families.
Yeah.
I used to go to Lenasia, so I was exposed to like Indian families. He had so many different friends in so many different spaces.
So you were just massively exposed by
different
his
groups, his circles.
His circles. And then you talk about an absent father.
Mm-hmm.
How deep is that for you?
Very deep.
Okay.
And I only realized the depth of it now as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So as a kid, my dad disappeared when I was around 5, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And returned when I got my first job.
Oh, wow.
I won my first job on a game show. We'll get to that.
Okay.
So yeah, I just feel like both parents are so important.
Is it?
You know, we talk about moms, and yes, moms play a huge role, but fathers are just as important. And I think...
And what do you feel like you would have wanted, you missed, that thing that you say both parents play such a big role? Why? Why does that father, why is it important?
Just the safety of a father figure.
Okay.
You know, knowing that a father figure has my back.
Yeah.
You know, the disadvantage sometimes with having a mom raise you on her own is that you become very protective of yourself.
Okay.
You build walls, so you don't trust any man that comes near you.
Yeah.
You try doing things yourself. You become the man, which is exhausting because we're not wired like that.
Yeah.
So it also just creates a defense mechanism around all males. And, you know, I'm sure there are beautiful males out there. It's just, unfortunately, a lot of us aren't exposed to that because, look, our moms did their best.
Yeah.
But
you can only do so much. And
when you grow older, you need to face the reality that this was what was missing.
Yeah, yeah.
So
and so then when you then work through life, you have to find a way through.
Yeah.
So you evidently successful, but it didn't come without its trials and difficulties. If you were to say within as you were growing to gradual, let's say, marriage.
Yeah.
Before. Let's not go into the marriage thing. What would you say were the difficulties, but also how did you overcome some of those things? If you had to choose one or two things that you would go, man, this school or this bullying, or like, what were the things that, and then obviously how do you look back and you say, I overcame it?
I think, I'm not going to lie, I had an amazing childhood.
Okay.
My childhood was amazing.
It was amazing.
But I hated high school.
Okay.
Because I went to an all-girls school.
Yeah.
But in terms of my varsity life, I didn't go to university.
Okay.
I went to a private tutor.
So you were just by yourself?
Listen, I did my matric.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go to Vega.
Okay.
And mom had a friend who worked there and was like, why don't you try the private tutor route so that you save money?
Yeah.
You know? And mom was like, okay, cool. So we went and we met this private tutor, Mr. Berry.
Yeah.
And yeah, he tutored me for like about 2 years.
Okay.
And I used to go to school once a week.
Yeah.
And it was so interesting because like it's one-on-one. So you have to do your homework.
Concentrate. There's no slipping between the cracks, nothing. It's you and me, done.
And the tests that we used to do were conducted like job interviews, which made it so interesting. And I remember I had a tongue ring and a lip ring at the time.
Yeah.
And he was like, you think just because you're a graphic designer, this looks cool. You look like a rebel. Who is going to hire you? You know? So he taught me a lot of life skills as well.
Yeah.
And funny enough, the first year of me schooling with him, the second year I got my job.
Wow.
So the second year I was still going to school, but I got my job in a game show.
Wow. So I want to take this opportunity to transition. Okay. So I'm going to transition into how you got into graphics design, why you got into graphics design, and then how you then converted your hobby of photography into a profession. Yo, is that a trigger?
Listen.
Did I just shoot triggers on you, to you? No. So,
okay.
And I deliberately asked it as like that because I really want to break down this view, especially within an African context. What is a hobby? What is the profession? And why can Cristiano Ronaldo be a professional athlete who, at the age of 10, decided to become an athlete, but then a photographer, started as a hobby and then became a profession? How does that work? But let's not go too ahead of ourselves. I want to know graphics design. How did you get into that?
So I was an art student in school.
Okay.
Art was my thing.
Was it
Don't
painting?
tell me about maths and science. Look, I did it because I had to.
Yeah.
But my main focuses were history and art. And I was a
Okay.
very strong art student.
And what, you just resonated with that? Is this a space for you to get away? Or is it a space for you to express yourself? Why?
I loved drawing.
Is it?
The detail. But also in church, I used to sing. Music was also a thing. So I was a very creative kid.
Yeah.
And I was blessed in that my mom paid attention to that.
Yeah.
So she got me an agency. She'd drive me to auditions. I was a kid presenter at some point.
Oh, wow.
So there were a lot of creative things that I was doing.
Yeah.
And that were enabled because my mom paid attention and she's like, actually, let's nurture this.
Yeah.
So from the art, then I was like, what's the closest thing to art where I can still sketch and do that stuff? And then graphic designing came up. Now, the funny thing is, when I was a kid, I used to say to my guardian, I want to be an artist. And he was like, you can't be an artist. Artists don't make money. And I
The
throw a
struggling
tantrum.
life of an artist.
Yeah. So I would like throw a tantrum. And I always look back and think, what would he say if he saw where I am today?
Yeah.
You know, that's
Because it's
happening.
Look at me now.
So with the graphic design, like I said, I went to school for 2 years for it.
Yeah.
But art, sketching, graphic design just made sense for me, designing the logos and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I did that for about 10 years.
Okay.
So like I said, I won my first job with Urban Brew Studios.
Okay.
And then I worked for ETV,
wow.
E-News
Yeah.
for 8 years.
Wow. What were you doing for E! News? You only made the logo that we currently see when
I left them in 2016.
Oh. Okay.
But yeah, I was on the team. I was a viz designer. So we'd like come up with like name straps and bumpers and graphics for backgrounds and all that interesting stuff.
Oh wow. So that's really cool though. Was it challenging or was it not cool? Or you just like, now I'm going for work again?
Yeah, well, okay. So in the very beginning, right? Working for a production house was fine. So working for Urban Brew was nice because they had like different exciting shows like Friends Like These,
Yes.
Yo TV,
Yeah.
Out of the Box, you know?
Yeah.
And then I moved to news, which was just news and very depressing news. So it was exciting in the beginning.
Yeah.
And note, when I was with my tutor, I studied print graphics. So a lot of the motion stuff I learned on the job,
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
which was very interesting.
So define the difference between print graphics and motion.
So print graphics is your business cards, your
Okay.
logos, stuff you can print.
Yeah.
Maybe like a nice design for a t-shirt and all
Yeah.
that. Motion graphics is like making things actually move. So if I were to take that print,
Yeah. And
I would
then,
be able to put it onto software like your After Effects and stuff, create elements that just move to create a moving logo.
oh wow. And so that's like if you did maths like basic and then there's like those maths advanced. Yeah. So those not everyone gets to that advanced mathematics.
It takes a lot of patience.
Oh wow. Okay.
And I'm very impatient.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So you're just like so that was one of the major things. So what did you call it again? What are the two things?
What?
The print graphics?
So it's print graphics and then there was motion graphics.
Motion graphics.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when you did your 8 years, you were learning a lot within the motion graphic space?
So the motion graphics started with the 2 years of
Oh,
me
the
getting
2
my
years.
first job,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
Which helped me get into the ETV,
ETV.
space.
But now you're in news and you're
Now
like,
I'm in news.
yeah.
I mean, I was using a Mac and then they downgraded me back to PC. Look, I said downgraded, but I mean, no, not like that.
Wow, that's so there are a few shots fired there. Firstly, you said that's like saying I was on an iPhone and I got downgraded to an Android. Ooh, someone literally caught a shot there. But for you felt like, whoa,
I
we're
think
going back into the Stone Age. That's how you felt.
No, not even, because when I started at Urban Brew, I was using PC.
Okay.
So I got used to PC and then they transitioned me to Mac.
Mac, and then you saw.
I got used to Mac.
Okay.
And then when I went for the job interview, I was told, no, we're going to put you on a Mac. But then when I got to the job, I had to go switch back to PC. So it's like it was a...
Okay, so then the news scene is, you did that for 8 years.
8
And
years.
when you left, did you leave like, hey, I'm done? And then you sat on the chair
was
like a
done in
gorilla.
4
Like,
years.
you're done in 4 years.
But my spirit, my body kept going to work for 8 years. But
Yes,
4 years in,
you were
I was
done.
like, yo, I can't.
And so how did you get through that 4 years where you didn't feel like you were supposed to be there or you didn't want to be there?
Pretty parties with the colleagues. But no, I'm very curious, right? So my dream was also to be a news anchor.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I got voice training,
Okay.
right? And on weekends where they weren't recording, like breaks,
Yeah.
I would get scripts
Yeah.
because I was friends with the crew, and then I'd sit there and they'd coach me, and then I'd do recordings
Wow.
of myself reading autocue,
Oh, wow.
you know?
And that was just something that you were curious about, a passion that you sort of wanted to maybe explore.
Yeah, because I was like, I'm bored here. Let me figure out something to do.
And you know what I love about that is because that whole notion of not sitting still, the whole notion of not just being defeated by the circumstance, but rather going, look, I'm bored. It's not really kicking it, but I can still do 1, 2, 3 things. And that can bring life into the world that I'm in and I'm living in. But did you take learnings from that anchor, that work within the anchor space that you then now apply in the future?
Look, it made me appreciate my childhood because remember, mom noticed my little skills and things and sent me for training.
Yeah.
So it was like muscle memory.
So now you were just like replaying what you're doing.
With a bit of tweaking, yeah. I mean, Jeff Malloy was one of my mentors in that space. He was a sports news anchor at the time.
Okay, cool.
And he would like say, okay, this is how you read a script. This is how you write the script. This is how you... And then Gareth Edwards was also another anchor, would be like... So there were people that were there that were like, wow, she's actually serious about this. Yeah. And I had braces, so really pronouncing things was a mission. But I was on a mission.
Yeah.
I was like, this is interesting and I want to. So I kept...
And that also shows me a certain level of perseverance that you then had. Would you say you're one of those, like, if you've got a plan... You're driving hard, or would you go depends?
I'm stubborn.
You're stubborn.
So if I lock in on something, especially because I got rejected so many times. So I remember one of my recordings was sent to Deborah Patter, and I was fluffing, and she didn't even get back to me.
Nothing.
I got rejected so many times, and I was told you'll never be a news anchor, and I kept going until I got a gig on radio as a newsreader.
Oh wow.
So I'm very stubborn because I know, especially when people push back, I'm like, why?
Why are you pushing back? I am on to something.
What is it about me? You know, I will make it work. So people call it perseverance. I just call it being stubborn. Simplify.
And some can just call it being Thabang.
Yeah.
And so then now I'm extremely curious how you transitioned from this hobby of yours that you started doing photography, on birthday parties with those, and then now you are a professional photographer.
Yeah.
And you kind of alluded to how you had the experience at your engagement photo shoot, and then that sparked something within you. So first and foremost, how many times do you get people asking you, how did you move from your passion to your actual job?
So firstly, people need to understand, right?
Tell them now and forever hold your peace.
Let me tell them. So not everybody that starts out in photography necessarily sees it as a hobby.
Yeah.
In my case, it was a lifeline. It was something that seemed interesting.
Yeah.
And I was really just determined to learn it.
Yeah.
Let me give an example.
Yeah.
ETV, I had shifts where I was working from 4 a.m. Until 2 p.m. From 2 p.m., I would go and shoot a wedding with my mentors until 11 p.m. and still be at work the next morning at 4 a.m. Is that a hobby? So my thing is, there's certain things...
Hold on. From 2 p.m. to what time?
11 p.m.
Till 11 p.m. Then you go home and sleep, and then you wake up at 4 a.m. Be at the office.
I'm at the office at 4 a.m.
Even in winter?
All the time, because I needed to get my head around the skill.
Okay, that's understood. So it's a very far cry from something you just do on a Sunday.
No, I didn't have that hobby mentality. I literally took pictures every day.
Okay.
I took my camera with me to work. If I was not in one of the rooms recording voice, I was running around with the camera during lunch.
Wow.
Or if I was bored at my desk, I'd sneak out and go take photos of a colleague.
So you were doing anchoring. You stopped doing that a bit. Then
I got rejected.
Okay, you got rejected enough times, and did the gigs that you got you mastered the craft to the point where you wanted to.
Yeah.
And then you had that experience, and then you said, you know what, I'm going to get into this. And so then you now started really pushing hard, and so you're running both ETV as well as doing this photography work. And how long did you do both of those things for?
So I picked up my first camera in 2014. So the guy who shot the engagement shoot did not end up being our wedding photographer. So then we got ladies who had photographed one of my colleagues' weddings.
Yeah.
Their images are stunning.
Yeah.
So I reached out to them. We had a chat and they shot the wedding. But before this, I remember saying to them that I wanted to get into photography.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, people have this tendency of saying, I want to do photography. And they're like, okay, do you have a camera? No. So what I did was I got a camera.
Yeah.
And I created an album on Facebook. I was like, I don't know how to use this thing, but I'm going to post and I'm going to learn. And I would take photos and I'd make mistakes. And then I'd reach out to these ladies and be like, hey, how did you get to that shot?
Yeah.
And they saw that I was serious because I
Hold
was
on.
Facebook.
On Facebook. What were you doing on Facebook?
My Facebook.
You're just shooting and putting it on Facebook.
Yes.
And then you're asking them on Facebook as well, like, hey.
Because they were my friends on Facebook. I befriended them. I was a bride. So now the bride becomes friends with the photographers.
Okay.
And the photographers were like, oh, kind of the bride also wanted to do photography.
So now it's just a Facebook friendship, like that kind of continues as you post your stuff.
Relationship,
Yeah.
and then they can see that now she's serious
interested in this.
because she's not waiting for us to say, go buy this camera.
Yeah.
No, I went and got a camera on credits at Game. And my thing was, this thing must pay itself for me to see that I actually like this thing.
Yeah.
And I'm serious. And guess what? It paid itself off.
Wow.
So that was me just putting my heart out there. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was still posting. And that at some point, then those photographers started commenting to say, oh my gosh, Thabang, that's a good shot. This is why. And as time went, they're like, no, come with us. We'll go do a family shoot together. And then I went with them on family shoots, and then we started shooting weddings together.
Wow.
And this went on until, so 2014, picks up the first camera. 2015, registered the business.
Wow.
I was tricked. I didn't know I was registering a business. My brother tricked me.
How did your brother trick you?
He was like, Thabang Art Photography sounds like such a cool name. I think you should register it before somebody takes it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't realize what he meant when you were saying register it.
So then you just
I was
went
like,
and yeah, let's do this.
Three options. And then he's like, yeah, but don't worry, we'll get this one. Registered, I let him do his thing. 2016, I left ETV on my birthday.
On your birthday. So you do everything on your birthday.
Listen, my birthday is a special day.
Special day.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to now fast forward because you're now in the scene and you're learning your craft, and how do you then end up shooting for Kevin Hart, being the official photographer for Kevin Hart, being the official photographer for Barack Obama, and being the official photographer for Angie Mutsaga. Yeah, okay, fine. How do you get into that space then where you are now amongst, I guess it's not the elites within South Africa when it comes to photography? When did you realize that you were part of the group? Because that's what I'm going to call it. It's not everybody who just gets called up for this.
Hide me. This is where the interview gets a bit awkward.
So when did you realize that you were part of the elites?
So let me tell you about this Kevin Hart thing.
Tell me more, because I can tell you for a fact. Kevin and I share many things, but
gosh,
yeah, go ahead. Anyway, so it's not about me, it's about you. Let's continue.
So word of mouth is powerful.
Yep.
You may not realize this, but when you do something, make sure that it's a good experience and a pleasant experience for everyone, because they're going to remember that. I remember I got an email. Well, not even an email. My website has a form that you fill out.
Mm-hmm.
So I got this form that was filled out about a conference, AW Africa conference. And I remember now responding to this email, and then we set up this call. And while we set up this call and this call happened, I remember it was a meeting between me and these two other people from New York.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We all chatting. They're like, no, we love your work. We've heard some really good things about you. Apparently another agency I'd done work with put my name forward.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And while we're talking and they're briefing me, and they're like, yeah, like when Kevin Hart, when he comes through, and I almost dropped the call because I was like, hey, wait.
This is a scam.
Hold on. Hold up. Because I was, so I listened to them and I heard them out, and it was a conference for like a few days. And after that call, I realized that, because for me, shooting people like Kevin Hart was always no, you need to be a cool kid on social media. You need to have like 1 million followers. You need to be like those cool, photographers.
Yeah.
People are watching you. Like, as long as you enjoy what you do, because I literally get lost in the work I do.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, people are actually seeing me, Yeah. I was super nervous though.
And so that idea of people watching you it carries the pressure within it, no?
No, not really.
Not really?
This is why it's important to find something you enjoy.
Okay, cool. So because you enjoy it, you know the reason why you do it, and therefore, even as people compliment you, it's just you doing you
And learning every day.
and learning every day.
Yeah. New risks every day, new opportunities every day.
So what does that mean or look like as a photographer? Like, because I don't understand when you say learning. What are you learning?
So I'm learning how to work with people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning how to tell people's stories with images, which is the real reason.
Break that down for me. So I'm going to say something slightly offensive. Okay.
Say it.
Okay. So I've got my iPhone. My iPhone's got really good camera and it's got like all this cool software and technology and stuff like that. And I can go ahead and just take a photo and then it does everything. And so what's the difference between you and me?
How do you feel when you take the photo?
I feel nice when I see it. I'll be like, wow, this is so cool. And I'm even trying to get the angles so that but I mean, it's not that hard, is it?
I shoot with Hart.
You shoot with heart.
So I capture people's emotions.
So you're looking for somebody's emotion.
Emotions, space, setting, moment. You must remember, I think if this person were to leave us today, what's the memory we have of them for their family and their loved ones? Which is the reason why I do what I do.
Oh,
People work so hard and have nothing to show for it as well in the event space. But in terms of human beings,
yeah.
you live on forever in that moment through an image.
Okay, I'm just writing that down. So that when I'm also with my iPhone, I'll be there like, so what did Thabang said? It's like capture the emotion and live forward through the image.
Yeah.
So you're trying to really just bring out that essence of that individual, and you're combining the environment and different ways to combine colors, I'm assuming then.
It's a nice way to be present.
What do
Like
you
what's happening now? Forget everything else.
Uh-huh.
Where are we now?
Yeah.
What's happening now?
Yeah.
How are the colors looking on your face? How are you feeling? What are we doing? Are we having a conversation? Where is it leading up to?
Okay, got you. So
it's a whole...
So it's just really about engulfing yourself within that moment. And once you engulf yourself in that moment, you start to be able to see the details of that moment, and
things
you then
you
start
overlook.
you overlook. And that's the beauty of life, I guess. It's the ability to extract those things that you overlook, and that's why a picture might be so powerful.
See, and you see the beauty in people. There's so many people that you would think they look a certain way, but when you actually connect with them,
you start to see it.
You start to see that they have insecurities, but when you take that shot of them laughing when you've cracked a joke, and you show it to them, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
So moments like that are rewarding for me.
So you know what I'm going to say?
Let's hear it.
So when we did our first photo shoot, it was actually the second one, but when we did the first one, just you and I came and I don't do suits.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're like, okay, now walk. And you took photos and I look at them like, that is not me. I don't recognize that person over there. And you even were like, when you talk and then when you look, like these worlds it's not the same. But the beauty about it for me is that I actually even gain inspiration and or confidence just by looking at a version of me that actually is there.
And that's what most of us see, but you're not aware.
Yeah. And that's
until you open your mouth and you start laughing.
And then you're like,
okay,
there you go.
Never mind.
Thanks for the shade. But
it's cool though.
Yeah, and that's what I actually think is the art of what you do. Not only is it a blessing that you enjoy it, but it's a blessing unto others. And you talked about earlier that you love to impact lives.
Yes.
And so that for me, as you shoot, you're really putting back a mirror to somebody who might not see themselves. And I think you are probably a victim of that too. Would you say? Of not being able to see yourself.
Yes, actually.
Unpack that, please, just a bit.
I sometimes use my photography as an escape, as a therapy, because then it prevents me from dealing with my own stuff, and I can focus on other people's things, which in some cases has been great. I remember when I lost my brother to suicide. I used it as, I still went in short events and things. It was tough. But you could even see the difference in how I took the images. When I'm going through something, my images are different.
Good or bad? Or
amazing.
just amazing?
It's just like look, the images are good, but there's just something different.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of creativity. Like, it's such a spiritual thing as well. So
when you're going through something, that's you're literally, your soul also shines through the work that you're doing. That's amazing.
It's not always amazing in business, though.
Why? And because now then that becomes the question, right? The difference between business and how's that working for you? And what's that looking like?
Yeah. So I'm learning now.
Yeah. Like, so excited.
I'm learning now that, yes, I shoot with Hart, but business has structure. Okay.
Yes.
I can't be now like the arty, in business. Business requires structure, yes, but I'm blessed in that I have clients that are able to merge these two things. So instead of doing serious corporate headshots, I can do headshots where there's personality and have a conversation. And clients actually appreciate that in between where I get a reaction and they're like, oh my gosh, Thabang, that was such an amazing experience. I actually want to use that image where you made me laugh on the website.
Okay.
So at least there's a glimpse of me there.
Yes.
Which
comes through. But there's the other side.
The admin stuff. Which is why it's like heavy and the structured but I mean, it's a work in progress, right?
It's a work in progress. But what if you were to give one tip, right?
Mm-hmm.
On and it, like you say, it's a work in progress. But if you had one tip, what would you recommend to somebody who's starting within the career to structure the way that they start so that they balance out both the business part of it, but also the creative part of it? Like, how do you grow both legs?
I think the main thing, focus on what you are good at or what you are trying to be good at.
Yeah.
Mastery.
Yeah.
And then all the other pieces will fall into place because there are people watching you that will offer help to be like, oh, you're amazing at what you do. Remember, if you're a doctor, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to go to a dentist who tells me they can do brain surgery.
No. I'm not. No. Dentists aren't barely doctors. That's my own personal view. But I'm not going to go into that. They still did the whole. Anyways.
See?
Please. Yes.
So I find that a lot of people want to diversify too quickly and they don't master anything. If you want to diversify, it's fine. But like, you're not going to be remembered.
Yeah. So I think this discussion has been amazing. And at this point, I'd love to give the quote for the episode.
Dun, 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 dun.
All right. So the quote for the episode is, support is when you surround yourself with good ideas, thoughts, habits, and people who will uplift you when you're down and cheer you when you're about to give up. The reason why I chose this quote, and yeah, you look at me like, wait, that's a bit weird, but it's because I listened to your story, and not only in your upbringing did you have the support structure that you not only chose, but also you had as a part of your life. You built yourself to be able to take the most out of that. And even as you progressed and you had the shame of Hillbrow, you had the feeling out of place by having a father who was white and who was not necessarily the norm from everybody who was surrounding you. You drew from each one of those experiences and spaces the most that you could. And that then allowed you to be able to gain the exposures with your curiosity, and that then prompted you to be able to be more of what you are today. And what you probably would have struggled if you didn't have that support. And even through the hard moments, you drew upon the community and the people around you to a point for me where you tell your story in a way that is quite refreshing, because though you might say some really deep things, it's coming from a place where you almost are comfortable talking about it. It's not one of those things where you're like traumatized as you speak. And yes, you never really go through issues, but you learn how to cope with them. And so even as we talk about bullying and you're growing up, the moment where you were having your engagement photo shoot and you saw that other people probably have an exposure, an experience like this, you took it upon yourself to then challenge yourself to then go into the photography space and then gain the support of the whole Facebook as you in a way that was messy, if you ask me. Like, you were just like, I'm gonna post my photos and you're gonna put it out there. And though Facebook has got its sins, you leverage that tool to again support you as you learned the craft of photography. And the beauty for me lies in that lack of fear. Like courage to put yourself into that space and hoping that not only do people see you, because you said they do, but they will help you and they're willing to help you. And you're not afraid to ask for that help. And as you do that, and even as you do that now, like you said, those are some of the beautiful facets of life that we overlook as the detail in those moments, and it's the support.
Yeah.
And that for me really shone through the discussion that we had. And even though, even as a friend, you said that I am funnier than Kevin, I look better, smell better, I'm taller. And I appreciate you saying that.
Wow.
But I also love the moment where you could not believe that, holy crap, they're talking about me doing this Kevin gig. And even when you then go to Angie Mutsecha, Angie Mutsecha, and your high school teacher, primary school teacher goes, Angie Mutsecha, this is Thabang Radebe. I was with her in primary school and look at what she has become. Yeah. That is the essence of what support looks like to me. That is the essence of what the journey that you have traveled and the journey that probably a lot of people travel through. You always need other people within your journey. You always need that community. And though you will shine through, the details lie within that high school, the primary school teacher that goes, please, let's go do this gala. And you do the shooting. And you are seen for who you are.
I bumped into him there.
So you bumped into him there, and then he introduced you like...
It was a gig. It was a gig I was booked for through a client.
Yeah.
And it was a coincidence. It was a whole education thing.
And then you got another gig from that
thing.
I was
like, no. Then I was like, how, Mr. Ngoveni? And he was like, hey. He was surprised to see me, and that's why he felt like he should show me off to everybody.
So, they were like lifting you, and they're like, "Yay, we've got this prize!"
Hey, and Chimutego was about to get into the car to leave, and he was like, "Wait,
hey, come here!" And you know the beauty about that for me, he's got so much pride in what you've become. There's no ways he would do that if he didn't carry that pride. And so, I would love to thank you for being here today.
Thank you for.
I carry the same level of pride that your the primary school teacher carries, because two things. The first one is I share the same photographer as Kevin Hart.
Oh wow.
But also because it's been an absolute honor listening to your story. There's so many more things that we didn't unpack. Your brother, your marriage, your current stuff and projects that you're working on. We didn't even talk about them, and the Obama. There's a lot. There's so much more.
Yeah.
But just in this short session, I've really gotten to know a lot about you, and I really hope that our listeners can also take a lot from what you've shared. This might be one of the first video podcasts that I have shot and I'm publishing. So you are a first in that space, and I'd like to just thank you for that as well. But for anybody who wants to get in touch with you, who wants to maybe see what you are able and capable of doing, what this, not hobby, because who stops at 2 p.m., goes till 11 p.m., wakes up at, that doesn't sound like a hobby to me.
Exactly.
So anybody who wants to see you, where do they go? How do they get in touch with you?
So I'm going to simplify this.
Okay, and look at there. Look over there as you say
Google Thabang R Photography.
Thabang R Photography.
Yes, Thabang R Photography, or you could just Google Thabang Radebe. All my pages will pop up. My YouTube, my Instagram, my Facebook, my website. Feel free to reach out.
Joe, some of us, we have to write, and then you have to write where you're from, like Zikamai Gangai Zo, Shameless, or because us, we don't show up on the first page if I don't add everything else. But Thabang is an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
This podcast is brought to you by Transformation Leader. You can follow us at www.t4leader.com.